Alrighty, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new review. Today I'll be talking about how I'm down a little bit over $19,000 day trading today. Another red day for the week. So far, I've had two green days, two very small green days, and two red days for the week. So, yeah, kind of getting into it. We'll get started. Missed the AM session today. Had some emergency to take care of. So I ended up trading the tail end of the AM session that came into the tail end of this AM session / the PM session. And so coming into the PM part of the session, obviously bias was pretty set in place for me. Obviously through yesterday's session, Wednesday, we ended up putting in a high through the high of day in which took out a 4-hour gap fill. And so for me, looking at overnight price, we saw a steady incline met by an opening range move, which was tremendously bearish through ES and NQ off the open. We had seen price off the open essentially come down here, trade into London lows, then seek lower extension past the Asia lows as well, giving you two bearish indications by running a low and sell side on both London and Asia, and still seeking continuation lower. What I will say about today specifically, despite the magnitude of the sell that we got, which was a good move, I believe NQ moved from top to low. We ended up seeing price move around 600 points, right? So a pretty aggressive sell. But I feel like there wasn't many entries in the market today, weirdly enough. And looking back at it, hindsight, I feel like unless you shorted the minimal retraces that we ended up getting today, for example, here, right here, there's not much you could have capitalized. So an odd day for sure, because through higher time frame, it definitely looks like we've displaced largely, which we did. But through lower time frame, it was kind of hard in my opinion. And I kind of went over with my chat today, like what I would have done maybe AM if had I traded. I maybe would have shorted this 1 minute gap go invert here. We would have been an initial consolidation. But aside from like this 1 minute gap go invert, which was a bit choppy initially, what is there really to enter off like a decent retrace in the market here, right? So not much, a bit of an odd day. In terms of my trade, my bias coming into the PM was I was still expecting lower. I wanted to seek lower. And what we ended up seeing price do was more so consolidate for a bit. My perception, which I think I've truly lacked a bit of discipline this week. That's kind of the week that it's been. But coming into this, I kind of looked at what we did through that London low grab on ES and that Asia low grab on NQ. What we ended up seeing price do was take out a low here on Asia and for NQ, and we ended up seeing price consolidate and more so than seeking that move back down. So price wasn't more so bullish here. It was more so a bit tired, a bit exhausted, accumulating before looking for that next leg of distribution, which was lower. That was my same perception here with price. And so what I more so looked to do was look to capitalize off a potential short by looking at our three components. What I will say out of all our three components, which if you're in the Discord, obviously you know, I think price action was obviously the one that was lacking the most. The people in my chat were asking me about this trade. I was risk on, I did put risk on, but so be it, right? I took the L to the chin. We ended up seeing price kind of come back up, running it to stop. But again, the intent with this trade here, the entry model was a 1 minute bullish for value gap go bearish IFEG, right? So we ended up seeing price create a gap right here. We ended up seeing price chop so hard here initially that there was no array on the 1 minute time frame work off at all, right? Nothing, right? You had this gap, but it got mitigated. So yeah, for me specifically, the idea behind this trade was more so look to see continuation into lower draw. We did end up doing that initially off the get-go, off the entry of the trade, but what we ended up doing then after was see price consolidate and be content with the low that I'd put in. So you look at the 5 minute time frame, you see price be very consolidative here, and you see price really just chop. But off the entry, in terms of the trade that we ended up taking, through confirmation was pretty neat. So price did pick up off the entry. We did end up seeing price come back down. In terms of the alert, I'll pull up Discord here. This is how I structured it. It was a give where I mentioned my break even. What I will say about today specifically, I don't know what it is with me this week specifically, is I gotta like maybe reset a bit. But my break even was set in stone, right? I said I in this potential tank. Boom. We talk about this. Our TP goal was that 4 hour gap fill. And then I say my break even stops would be the hourly gap fill in 68.64. I know this break even is, kind of tight, but 68.64 is that zone which got taken, right? In terms of that hourly gap fill, we saw that hourly gap get filled. What I was looking for my break even was a closure under the hourly gap fill. That was me being a bit greedy there, to be honest. And I think that's probably what resulted in this trade in going red, was just not taking my break even and not putting, levels and price action over how I felt on the trade. That's totally on me, right? Because if I go break even on this trade, it goes break even. I can go back and reflect. But what I end up doing is more so in the middle of the trade, as the trade's going on, you end up seeing me look for a closure, which we never ended up getting, like a good closure below the hourly gap. Never got that hourly gap fill. And so that resulted me in keeping this trade. And so you see the executions on this trade. This trade should have been a trade taken here, come back up, and went break even. It still would have been a little frustrating because we would have held this trade and saw an initial and then money move, but it is what it is. That's trading 101, right? And people get frustrated off anything. It's important, a trader like myself, and for you guys, hopefully, you guys aspire to be traders who are more so emotionally detached to your trading, right? You never fully emotionally detach. Like this loss here, chat, at the end of the day, I'm human. It still stings a bit, but it gets a lot easier over time. And so for me specifically, I think I played into emotions a little bit today with just slightly not moving my break even where I should have. Right, my break even was the hourly gap fill. Again, we go higher time frame. The hourly gap fill here, my take profit goal intent was this 4-hour gap fill. Was a little too fixated on it, and too fixated on downside, not sticking to my plan here, which has resulted in me having a red trade here today and going -1R. What I will say, a good thing that we did end up doing is once this trade ended up realizing, we immediately got off and realized the session. We're not going to do anything more. We're not going to try anything more no matter what price does here because it's just very slow and just seems exhausted overall. So here are the executions. Here is the day. A bit tough, but it is what it is. That's the session sometimes. And again, completely at fault. I am, right? Either you don't take a trade here or you stick to your plan that you had initially in place, which is just go risk free after your target got hit, which was this hourly gap fill. I ended up placing stops on this trade. The wick high, I don't know why this is marked out, but it's this high right here. That is a stop placement off this trade. We end up seeing price come back up here, wick, and now we're just kind of consolidating back again in range. So a bit tough to be honest, but it is what it is. Again, you cannot force here. It's important not to revenge trade, and I posted a piece about that in my channel. I said, taking the -1R, not going to force anything, the compound L, and moving on. Price action this week has been bad. I think it's smart to just see it for what it is and preserve for better price. Week 1 of February, which was last week, February was killer because price was. Week 3 and 4 could be killer as long as you follow yourself, or you follow yourself the ability, or allow yourself the ability to trade. Do not attach. I'm realizing my session, and so you see me kind of mention that, and that's kind of a message I want to get across to there and to you guys as well. Despite anything, Chad, I know last week, if you're in the community, we had a fucking killer week. Green 5 days in a row, 6-hour plus week, did very well, almost a 7-hour week. This week, Monday we were like up a 0.2R, Tuesday -2R, Wednesday like a 0.3R, and then today a -1R. So it seems a little foggy, it seems a little hazy, but that's just because price is not the best this week. And again, you look at the reflection on the month overall, us being up a 7R last week and us being down a -2.7R, right? If you just look at it from that perspective, we're still very good, right? Obviously. So I think it's just taking it one day at a time. Now, I'm not saying let up and, be loose, but the reason we're able to be consistently profitable, Chad, people don't realize you will have your red weeks, you will have your green weeks, you'll have your red days, you'll have your green days. The thing is how good are you at managing, right? Are you able to maximize your profit when there? Are you able to be the best risk manager you can be, right? And so on days like this is what differs it, right? For me, I realize the day, yes, I'm running the week, but most times, I guarantee you, a lot of traders in my position here, being red on the week already coming into the day, and then also being red today, they most likely revenge trade. They most likely FOMO. They most likely get caught up in trying to make losses back, even after having a week like last week, because they're so fixated on P&L and the monetary aspect of trading. Simply move on. Chat, no matter what I do today, if I were to more so revenge trade and force a trade here and say I get lucky and break my rules and get lucky and I end up, bring myself back to green. Today's one day. Today's not going to get me to pay out on these Lucid accounts, right? That one trade's not going to get me back to pay out on the Lucid accounts. Just simply move on. If it takes you an extra trade to get there, so be it. But you want to make sure every trade that you end up taking is a trade that you follow within your system. Because the moment you start doing that consistently and breaking your rules, all it takes is one day, just one day, for it to not go your way and you completely tilt and lose it all. So that's what it is. And yeah, that's pretty much the recap. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one.